so easy to get caught up in a modern world. Easy to forget where you came from. I left Hollywood 15 years ago. I came home to Hawaii to remember what life is about. My name is Jason Scott Lee, and I live in the rainforest. Aloha mai. This is my home. Over the years, I've learned to grow my own food and collect my water. I live as close to nature as I possibly can. And I hear her crying. Our Earth is changing. Our islands are changing. And as we try to keep up with our human needs, we seem to be forgetting about what sustains us. What sustains life. Hey, William. Yeah. Tomorrow morning. Right. I just have some questions. Yeah, cool. Can't wait. Bye-bye. My first child was born 2 years ago. Bye-bye. She reminded me that we're not alone, and that there are generations yet unborn that are depending on us for their survival. But what does Hawaii's future hold? It's a question we have to ask. What will our islands look like in 50 years if we don't change the way we live? Is there hope? I'm setting off to find answers, and I'm asking you to come along. I just arrived on Oahu, home to 1 million people. I'm on my way to visit my friend William Aila. I think he'll have some answers.
Okay, right there. Just hold them right down there. See how that? It's perfect.
Hey, aloha, William.
Hey, Jason. How's it?
How's it?
Welcome to Waianae.
Mahalo.
Hey, this is my grandson, Kaiana.
Kaiana. Aloha.
I think about my grandkids all the time and the challenges that they're going to face.
So 50 years from now, William, what's the worst case scenario?
So the worst case scenario for us is that our watersheds get depleted more and the source of fresh water diminishes. That's the worst case scenario for us.
So these are our rainforests.
Rainforests, in a sense that it captures the condensation from the clouds as well as the mist. And at the same time, it provides this wonderful ecosystem for native plants, native birds. It's supposed to be the sponge that soaks up the moisture, that holds it for the benefit of ourselves today and our grandchildren in the future. Fresh water, of course, is very important to us. You can't go for more than about 3 days without drinking fresh water. Fresh water is the basis for our agriculture here. Fresh water is important for every ecosystem from the top of the mountain even into the ocean. As you know, that the estuaries, that place where fresh water and salt water mix, are an important place for a lot of juvenile fish from many different species. We just can't do without fresh water here in Hawaii.
I think what William is saying about our watersheds and the importance of it is that we're hitting a critical point. It's a boiling point of that there may not be water for the future generations. So William, can we save our watersheds?
We absolutely can save our watersheds. One of our biggest challenges, of course, is the funds to do the proper amount of mitigation, the proper amount of fencing, the proper amount of restoration work that has to occur, and implement the changes that are necessary to turn things around. But the time is now. We have to do it now, in the next 10 years. We can't wait any longer, otherwise it's going to be disastrous for us.
Well, mahalo, William. That's great. can't stop thinking about what William said. The worst case scenario would be losing our forests. That's a scary thought. Anyways, William wants me to meet Eric Enos, who does some restoration work here in the Waianae Valley. Let's go find him. Hui, Eric.
Oi!
Aloha.
Aloha mai!
Jason. I come upon this oasis, this Shangri-La of flowing water and lo'is and terrace being maintained and taken care of, and it's kind of a shock, the beauty that they've established here. So Eric, what is this place?
This is a place that the community recovered maybe about 30 years ago. It was all abandoned, and it was dry and all totally covered over by grass, and did some research and find out there were abandoned taro lo'i.
So once upon a time there were hundreds of lo'is, and water was flowing through this valley, and there was quite a bit of agricultural development. What exactly happened for that to disappear?
So it got lost maybe 150 years ago. The water was diverted, and then these lo'i lands were leased to cattle ranching.
Is that a big issue up here?
Yeah, that's a good example of poor animal management affecting the watershed.
And so the future of this place, the dream that you have is
Bringing back the water and bringing back the families to a place that once fed families for generations.
I kind of want to know what happened, 200 years ago. Why is such a critical change in culture and spiritual belief and agriculture and losing our water? I'm going to visit Puakea Nogomeyer. He knows a lot about Hawaiian history. I'm hoping he'll offer insight into how we got to where we are today.
Ha'ina mai ka puana.
Hey, Puakea.
Oh,
Jason.
Hey! So you want to unlock some mysteries of history, Jason?
Well, it's become clear to me that water availability is going to be a serious issue in the future. So I was hoping you could help me understand a little more about this precious resource.
Well, I think it's already a serious issue, and it always was. It's just looked at differently over time. And it'd be worthwhile looking into the historical materials, see how that change happened.
Can we?
We can. We have lots. So there's a website where we can search part of the Hawaiian language newspapers. And they were published for over a century. So let's see how many articles there might be on water. So you just type in Wai. 3,783 different newspaper pages reference Wai.
So they talked about it a lot back then.
It's a constant discussion, constant discussion.
So Puakea, what can we learn about our future by looking at the past?
You know that the old system that was in place for a long time was the Ahupua'a. It's an economic zone and it's an environmental zone. Usually it's a watershed, or it might be multiple watersheds.
Meaning for the Hawaiians was the whole
entity down
entity all the way
water.
to the water.
From the highlands, from the high reach of the mountains, all the way down to the shore. All of it was considered as a single unit. So when water becomes really a sold commodity, it's not looked at in its whole effect anymore. And so the idea of this Ahupua'a as a whole unit gets set aside. Lots of things change. The land itself changes. This is an article from 1856. The cattle are now running looking for forage, and they're destroying the fields. Koina pohaku me ka lepo wale no. There's only rock and dirt left, and it will not grow back.
I think what Puakea is saying about the Hawaiians' relationship to water is that it was held in such high esteem, and it had such a paramount effect on their culture, on their spirituality, and on their entire lifestyle of the workings of being self-sufficient and self-sustainable.
Hawaiians say, the rain follows the forest. So you diminish the forest. If you diminish the water, the forest will diminish. You diminish the forest, the rain diminishes. Looking at the way the people who had lived here for 1,000 and more years, how they looked at this land, is really worth reconsidering. Come, I'll show you something amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I suppose we don't think about it too much.
But today, we run them like nothing. We kind of forgot the way of the way, the importance of the water.
That's true. Puakea was amazing. He really helped me understand that the water issues we face today are the result of decades of compounded problems. What I really want to get a grip on now is just how much water do humans consume. Barry?
Hi, Jason. Welcome to the Board of Water Supply.
Meet you.
This is
Hi,
Kat.
Jason. Great to
Hi,
meet
Kat.
you.
Good to meet you. So Barry, what is the Board of Water Supply, and what do they do? What do you guys do?
Board of Water Supply is a public agency that purveys water for the residents of Oahu. We're pumping on an average of 150 million gallons per day of drinking water. And as the island grows, we expect that to increase by another 30 million gallons per day to 2035.
So where does all this water come from?
It comes from the ground. We have wells and we have tunnels that extract the water from our aquifers. And that's the importance of the forest, because the mountains and the forests capture the rainfall and recharge our aquifers.
So Barry, in a worst case scenario, if our watersheds and our forests aren't taken care of and the amount of rainfall decreases, what would happen in, say, a 50-year span?
You're going to see our wells start to salt up, and people will have to get by with less. And so you can look at rising costs, not only for water, but also for goods, services, for agriculture. As water supplies dwindle, it will affect our daily lives.
So here I am talking to Barry, an expert from the Board of Water Supply, telling me about the worst case scenario, about the cost of water and the polluting of water if the watersheds aren't taken care of. And that would be a deep, deep concern for, I think, every individual, on whether you're a visitor or whether you're a Kamaina or local. We don't only need water for drinking and bathing, but we depend on it to grow our own food. I'm meeting with Larry Yamamoto, an agricultural conservationist, to get insight on what role agriculture plays in Hawaii's water future.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Larry.
How's it going?
Right? So when and why were ag water systems built, and how do they work?
Generally, what the ag water systems do is they take surface water that falls in the upper watershed, and either through system of dikes or tunnels or stream diversions, carry that water from the wet part of the island to the dry part of the island.
How are ag water systems going to be important for the future?
I think the ag water systems that exist today are going to be critical for agriculture to be successful in the future, because there's no way that the islands in Hawaii can be food secure and stable without having irrigation water. Hawaii has a very, very small supply of food on hand. And in fact, we import probably 90% of our food right now. So increasing that production is hugely valuable for us in the future. Not having that is a really, really bad thing.
So Larry mentioned food sustainability and the fact that we import 90% of our food. Now I'm thinking to myself like, oh my God, that's huge. And if we were to try to become food self-sufficient, imagine the amount of water that would take.
So really what we want to be sure is that the upper watersheds can stay healthy, and then the systems can be intact so that you can actually have food production. The worst case is not having that.
Everyone I've spoken with has focused on the need to protect and expand our watershed areas. I know what a forest looks like, but I heard that the Pu'ukukui rainforest in West Maui is one of the most pristine watershed areas left in Hawaii. Sam, thanks for inviting me up here. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, this is a great place. I'm glad you're here with me up in the forest of Pu'ukukui. There's a good place for us to do proper forest entry.
Ohu ka mauna I ka le ohi alaka na au pua ulahi kina ke a komohan ko mo ta ohu I ka hana ko mo apana hana ta ohu e ho ohu I de ala ohi ohu ka ni ohi awehi wa no hoku ai ohu humu ka wahine no homa ohu pahio I ka paliku ka wahawa paliku I ka pama.
All right, Sam, that was a beautiful oli. How does the rainforest work in terms of its role as a watershed?
There's the canopy trees. There are the trees that have their place under the shade of the ohia and the olapa in the canopy. And then there are all of the shrubs under that. There are so many layers of vegetation going all the way down to the mosses and ferns on the ground below you. You would not see a single piece of bare ground. And that kind of structure is only found when you've got species that have been living together for thousands of years, for millions of years. None of them is out of balance. You know, water enters into the forest two different ways. Most people think about water coming into the watershed in the form of rain, but in many of our upland watersheds, they're also in the middle of the clouds. And as the clouds move through the leaves gather up the moisture, and it condenses on their surface and drips down. This kind of cloud drip is really, really important. Sometimes 30 to 50% of the water that comes to us is caught by the forest in the form of cloud drip. But whether by rain or clouds, that water moves slowly down through the forest and eventually it gets down to the ground level. The water goes down and hits the underground aquifer. And when it comes down to the ocean, there'll be places where it comes out, sometimes in springs, sometimes even in the ocean itself. Of course, once it's in the ocean, then the sun hits the ocean and it evaporates and forms clouds, and then the whole cycle starts again.
And what are the biggest threats to Hawaii's watershed areas?
We see introductions of all kinds of non-native, very aggressive plants from all over the world. Myconia from South America, for example, strawberry guava from Brazil. And when those plants get into our forests, they convert that complex functional watershed into a much simpler and less efficient and less effective watershed. With the canopy blocking out the sun and the stems of that plant going all the way down to the ground, no other trees or shrubs or ferns or mosses below it. And so we've come to learn that not everything that's green up in the mountains is good.
So what animal species would be the biggest threats?
In our dry forest, it's typically goats. They can convert a dry forest on a steep area into barren cliffs. And in the wet forest, the main problem is pigs. And their presence there churns up the forest floor, allows the weeds to come in.
Sam's main point is that it's really about the invasive species, both plants and animals, that seem to be taking over Hawaii's native forests. What would happen if we were to lose our native rainforest?
If our forest were to go, the rain would hit barren ground, it would rush off into the ocean, and we wouldn't get much of it at all. Ultimately, you have to look at places that have lost their forest. You look at the island of Kaho'olawe, where the forest cover was destroyed by sheep and goats and cows. And now it's just a barren, hard pan. And so when you don't have that forest watershed in place, when you've got erosion, you have effects from the top of the mountain all the way down to the sea. When you think about how people come to Hawaii partly because of the natural beauty of this place, what if you came to a favorite beach and found that the reef was no longer alive, it had been smothered by mud? You would say, I thought Hawaii was a paradise, but this place is getting really lousy. I don't want to come here anymore. It obviously has strong economic impacts when you really stop to think about it. All of us know that times are tight now, and yet in these times, that's when we need to make sure that we invest in the foundation. Because if you let that foundation slip away, that's when we'll be really regretting it. That's something that has to happen now. Here's where the combination of non-native animals and invasive weeds really shows clear. Here was an old pig resting area, and because of the disturbance, this Tibuchina was able to gain a foothold, and now it's crowding out all of the native plants that should be growing in this spot.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I began this journey wanting to know what Hawaii will be like for future generations. Everyone I've spoken with believes we can change the course we're on, but I just don't know if enough is being done. It's frustrating.
Hi, Jason. I'm Julie Lealoha. William Island thought I should come talk story with you.
You know, Julie, I've been kind of at odds, with all the people I've been visiting and the information I've been getting on water. And, I was wondering how you felt about that, being in conservation for so long.
Jason, I can understand your frustration with some of the conservation issues in the state of Hawaii. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Because I started as a low-level field worker and worked my way up, I have the utmost respect for field guys, that are, really putting their heart and soul out there to try and manage what they can, and granted it's small parcels, but they're little small wins, and I figure at some point if you get all these little small wins, eventually it comes into, big acreages, and it's actually shown in the data that we've been able to manage tens of thousands of acres that way by just identifying key areas that we can start with. And that's, from my perspective, that's what you have to look at. Because if you look at the entire picture as a whole, which you're doing, that's probably why you get so, you got to kind of bring your focus in a little bit and just do what you can. And
I think, Julie has this thing, she's very passionate about creating awareness, and that things have changed since she's been over 20 years that she's been doing the conservation work, and I think that gives me hope, and I think that is a very contagious message to feel and to send out, and she's really affected me.
And now that the watershed partnerships are forming all across the state, other organizations are coming together, and people are networking, and merging their organizations into these much larger structures so that we can deal with, problems area at a time, and including utilizing other resources within the small amount that we have. That's sort of my vision, is that everybody's working together to try to figure this out, because you can talk about going green and you can talk about saving resources, but to me, put your money where your mouth is, let's show some action and figure out how to do this.
Julie helped me realize that I can make a difference by just being aware of watershed issues and volunteering when I can. Is this the work crew?
Yeah.
I'm here to help. My name is Jason.
Hello, my name is Kuli.
So what are we doing today?
So today we'll be planting some critically endangered plants, and we also have a little bit of fence to fix.
Okay. Now, are you a volunteer?
Well, I work with the Natural Area Reserves, but we have some volunteers here today. And we also have some workers with the Three Mountain Alliance.
Wow, so what are these?
These are Ohavais. They're Clemante peleana, a really critically endangered species. There's only about a dozen left in the wild.
Wow. So this is what we're going to plant today?
Yeah, we're going to try to get out as many as we can.
Excellent.
Cut that tree right there, please.
Got it.
Let's go.
I just wanted to thank you guys again for coming out to Pumaka'ala Natural Area Reserve. We're going to be doing some restoration work today and some maintenance work. We're really happy to have our youngest volunteer here with us. So let's fix the fence today, keep the pigs out, and help preserve this beautiful forest for our future generations.
Just hook this on around the post and wrap it around. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, we're gonna cuddle, okay?
All right, where are we going to put this? So what brings you or Ohana out to this part of the woods?
You know, we do outplantings and stuff, and we don't always get to bring baby out to these outplantings, but today is a kind of a special day, and the sooner that we can get our keiki, get their hands dirty, get their hands in the aina, you know, the sooner we can start to build that relationship.
I'm out here with these amazing people, and I'm looking at this beautiful child, and it's reminding me of my own daughter. And I realized that this is what Julie was talking about, that these are the people and efforts that we need to support and fund. I really can't think of a better investment.
Some dirt inside.
Where will Hawaii be in 50 years? It seems it can go two ways, and it depends completely on whether or not we can protect our watersheds. It's really up to us, and it's for the sake of our future generations.